Quick rock talk. I got to thinking today. Anybody that's been watching any of this shit, I don't know why. You know I got low self-esteem. I don't have a lot of high opinions of my capacity to do much, or, that my thinking process is superior to anyone's. Then I got to pondering, you got all these kids that go to college for like political science and economics and what have you, and it seems like they're dumber than me and like some of these like understandings of the things that they studied. And I was like, well, that can't be right, because I don't think I'm all that smart. And then I kind of got to thinking a little more about it as I was talking to a guy that's doing work on my motorcycle, something I hope to share with you all before the end of the year, once it's all up and running. Coming back around to what I started this video about. These kids aren't dumber than me. They're over-fixated. They're over-focused. They're over-specialized to think in one particular fashion on one topic to the exclusion of all else. They're so fixated on political science. They're so fixated on economics from an academic standpoint that they cannot be... They don't have the flexibility that comes with perspective and experience to apply these things to the real world and to, integrate those subjects and topics that they've studied and learned into the functionality of the world around them. So for economics, for example, like, it's not enough to understand basic economics. It has to be paired with some degree of experience with working with money, finances, with seeing the structure and the flow of trade. And if you don't see it and play with it and get your hands dirty, all you have is book learning. You can read an awful lot about repairing a motorcycle, as me and my mechanic, often have talked about, but reading a book, while it helps you understand the process that you're expected to do, doesn't actually walk you through it. I have a climber's manual for my bike, which is this extensive volume that goes over all the maintenance and all the repair processes to get to any part of the engine and to do the thing to make that function as it was designed to. However, it doesn't show you how to do it specifically. It doesn't walk you through what tools to use specifically and what way that they are to be used. I mean, yeah, it says you're going to need a number 11 socket and a wrench with an extension, but it doesn't show you how to run that wrench through the convoluted bird's nest of vacuum tubes and whatnot above the engine to get to the spark plug, for example. You kind of just have to figure that out. Or you have to have somebody there to show it to you. Or if you get lucky and YouTube hasn't taken it down and replaced it with a bunch of muddled crap, a tutorial video. But even a tutorial video is not quite as good as putting your hands on a wrench and doing it yourself. Until you've taken that step, all of that is somewhat of an abstract conveyance of something to you that you're not familiar with. Similar to explaining color to a blind person. Yeah, you've read about it, you've studied the topic, you've perhaps seen like sterile and demonstrations in a vacuum divorced from all the other variables and factors that are basically endless in scope and scale that consume all of the processes for which you're learned. But if you haven't ran a business, if you haven't been responsible for budgeting an account that has inflow and outflow between multiple customers and vendors and what have you, you can't really claim any real expertise or understanding of economics. When it comes to political science, it comes into another degree of difficulty that makes them seem stupid, when in reality I don't think these kids really are stupid, they're just misled. They think that political science is the silver bullet that can fix all the woes of policy in the country that they're in and in the world abroad. It just doesn't work. Because politics can't be fixed from within. If politics is damaged and corrupt, which almost all of it is, the only panacea that I could think of that could be attributed to such a powerful healing impact would be culture. Politics is a product and a result of the will of the people, manifested and articulated by their belief structures and their chosen collective values. You can't get a politician to come along and change the entire structure within which he must operate. You can't rebuild a house while you're standing in it necessarily. I mean, that's oversimplification. If you know anything about construction, actually, yes, in fact, you can. There's people that live in a house as it's being renovated, just, in different wings at a time. Point in case, though, like, if you're a politician, you're not going to fix politics. The only way to fix politics is by staying outside of politics and effectively offering the people under which politics presides an alternative means of structure for their judiciary, legislative, and executive needs. So when you study political science, it essentially invalidates your entire scholastic effort to think to yourself that this entire topic that I've learned is irrelevant to addressing the problems that I was taught. And that makes you angry, and it makes you feel ripped off and cheated. And so you'll go into like this denial phase where cognitive dissonance kind of shields you from your ability to reach the source conclusion that it's okay that you kind of wasted time because you actually learned a lot, and political science is fundamentally useful in seeing the structure of the thing before it was corrupted, and kind of does give you a blueprint perhaps to how it's supposed to be. But in and of itself, it's just a step along the road, and you actually have a long way to go. So it's not so much that you've wasted your time. It's more the case that you have a lot more time to dump into it if you don't want to sound like you're full of shit when you're talking to a regular jackoff on the street corner. Political science is a very archaic and esoteric school of thought, and it's fundamentally worthless in day-to-day conveyances. And I would argue that if you want to be a politician, political science is equally useless insofar that it doesn't apply to the actual realistic state that politics is in right now. Because politics is not an idealized version of itself. It's very corrupted, very convoluted, and much like a battle plan, it's all neat and tidy until the first, gunfire goes off. And then once everything's underway, like the neat and tidy element of your battle plan evaporates. So I would encourage kids to spend less time in school. And if you're really interested in something like politics or economics, run for an office and just see how far you get, and elect to spend your time with mentors to walk you through getting elected and addressing the needs of your constituents. If you've held office and you've done that, you'll learn more about politics than political science can actually teach you, because political science is teaching you coulda, woulda, shoulda, and politics and practice will teach you what is, and it is what it is will take precedence. As far as economics, if you want to learn about that, why don't you start a business, like just a small little one-man LLC or a little S-corp, and just, sell something and, watch your money flow and watch the demand, interact with your supply and how they have a relationship with each other, ebb and flow. Get real, dude. Like, it's not that I'm smarter than you. I'm a failure at life, and I'm going to be the first person to tell you this. I play taxi full-time in a car that I live in. I spend more time in my driver's seat than anywhere else in the world, and it sometimes feels like a prison and sometimes like a refuge. It's almost like my car has become the shell of this hermit crab that I am. So I'm not sitting here coming to you as like an authority. It's more the case that all of my knowledge of the world didn't come from schooling. I never even got my 10th grade, passed. I never made it through high school. I got a GED, basically. And I have no formal schooling. So all my understanding of the world is through practice. You're not smarter than me because you went to college. If anything, you've basically tied both hands behind your back because you're running on an academic, might have been hypothetical world that just does not track with what you're actually standing in. I'm not saying that I'm better than you because I've lived it all. I'm just saying I have the advantage of understanding how to apply the things that I do know, whereas you probably can't apply half the things that you know because they're not applicable. So I guess my advice to you, if you're like one of these kids, getting nerded out in college and they're starting to like really pull out the scrubby sponge and the soap and wash that brain of yours, get out of it. Go live your life. Go get a job. Like actually like be tangible, be visceral, be involved directly with existing. Like really lose yourself in the process. And it's not just going through motions. Like, actually analyze what it is that you endure on a daily basis. Start watching other people in similar situations to you and learn what's different about them and yourself. Learn what's similar about them and yourself. Actually start correlating yourself with your peers and like develop peers, because you have no peers if you're smelling your own farts thinking you're all that in a bag of chips. You have to have a degree of humility. I don't expect you to have no self-esteem like me, but you can't think you're better than everyone you come across, because that's just going to taint your capacity to have meaningful, positive interactions with your peer group and develop the kind of relationships that will enhance your existence far beyond being out on your own. Family is everything, and if you don't have family to fall back on, you can create a family for yourself by developing a peer group that shares your values and interests. And you can't do that when you're always going around thinking you're better than everyone or that you know something that you don't. The best presumption you can make is that you don't know shit and that you're ignorant as hell, and that there's going to be people that come along on a daily basis that will be better at you than everything, but that doesn't make you the worst at anything. And if you can accept that and run on that premise and use that as the linchpin of your operating praxis, I think you're going to do a lot better for yourself. And I would really hope that a lot of you consider that. If there's any way that you can avoid being like me, it's getting your hands dirty with social interaction at as young an age as possible and really sharpen your skills. If you get shut down a lot and made fun of, that's inevitable. Failure, after all, is one of the primary ingredients for success. And boy, don't I know it, because I haven't stopped failing yet. I've succeeded at only very, very few things. But there's always tomorrow, I guess, and I'll just keep going until I'm dead, and maybe before I'm dead I'll hack it at something. We'll see. But I hope you guys will think about that, because I've been thinking about it for a while, and maybe it'll help somebody out there.